Sadly, when we received a notice from the Gestapo that we all able men, 16 and over, will have to meet at the main train station to be sent to a French labor camp. And I hugged my mother and I kissed my two sisters, and as I was walking up the stairs to the platform, I made one mistake. I turned around to wave at my mother once more just before I walked in, and I saw her crying. And this is the very first time I saw my mother crying. And how I managed for 3 years, I'll never know. There was every day something else. Well, as we stood completely in the nude, October 1942, cold. Not only in the nude, we even had to leave our shoes. And I saw little Albert standing beside me, and I whispered sideways and said, "You didn't take off your shoes." And he started to cry. He says, "Well, the new shoes, his mother bought them for him just a couple of weeks ago. And I just hope for the best." And what I expected happened. The SS walks by, he says, "You didn't take off your shoes." And he started to cry. He said, "The new shoes, my mother bought them for me a couple of weeks ago." The SS takes out his revolver. He says, "These are new shoes. Eh? Your mother bought them for you a couple of weeks ago," and he just shook his head and shot him right between the eyes. And I still, today, 65 years later, I could still feel the warm blood on my legs because blood was sputtering all over. And this is another experience I had. So it goes to show you, it's a miracle I'm still here. And that's why I know I have to keep talking about it. And lastly, why it's so important, because the Holocaust deniers. When you hear the Holocaust deniers, I can't find the words to describe it. How can they honestly believe that it didn't happen when I'm standing right in the front of them? I don't know. All I know is that when I went to a Jewish school not too long ago, and the question arose, where was God when all that happened? And then one student got up and he says, "What did God do when all that happened?" And the teacher got up, he says, "God cried."
It was really in my second year of university, once I was already the president of Hillel, that I discovered the necessity of being comfortable with being a Jewish Canadian, with being comfortable with being a Jew in a secular environment, being comfortable with defining Judaism for myself. Insofar as the Israel on campus goes, that was really a learning curve. It was really a learning curve. I didn't realize the degree to which Israel would need to be defended day after day after day. It was shocking, but as my time in Hillel progressed, I recognized that it was something that was a passion of mine. The biggest difference that my generation can make for this Ottawa Jewish community is to choose to take an interest, is to choose to get involved. That's the biggest thing that they can do.
I've had the privilege of going to Israel on numerous occasions over the years, and to see where our money here from Ottawa goes and what it does. One of the things that stands out for me was a trip that I took back in, I think it was around 2003. It was when things were really bad in Israel with the suicide bombings. And I was at an event where we handed out checks, physically handed out checks to victims of terror and their families. And to actually see our money being handed over and the looks on these people's eyes and their sense of appreciation for what we were doing is something I'll never forget.
I do remember my father teaching us the importance of giving, and no matter who came knocking at the door, he always instilled the importance of giving a little bit, whatever it was, to every organization. And that's something that I believe remained with me, and I try and instill in my children.
One of the challenges that we have as a community is that we can never have enough volunteers, we can never have enough donors. I worry quite a bit about the thin base, and we have a tremendous need for an increase in both, because after all, these buildings and these institutions don't just happen by themselves. They happen by people who are doing and who are giving generously, and that's what we need.
Jordan's been on the list to get into Tamir for, I guess, since he was 17, 18, and so we waited about three and a half years before the spot became available. And as you get older, you start wondering what's going to happen, you know, when you get to be 60, 70, 80, 90, if you're still alive, what's going to happen to your child? And it's having a place like Tamir, it's a relief.
Up and away, Superman.
My daughter came home for a long weekend. She went to visit him and she said, you know, he looks better than when he lived with you. And that, you know, I wasn't upset, I was thrilled. It made me very happy that that's how she felt. And he does look great, and he is so happy, and he is thriving. He just is really thriving there. It's been the best move for all of us.
I'll never forget the day that my mother went to Hillel Lodge. She was very scared, she was very nervous, she didn't want to go. She had gotten used to being where she was for 6 or 8 months. And the second that we wheeled her in the door, and there was hellos from all these people that she knew or had known earlier in her life, it was immediate comfort. And everyone went out of their way and continued to go out of their way for all the time that she was there to give her an extremely positive experience. And she was on the 3rd floor where it's not such a heavy level of care. My father was on the 2nd floor where it's a very heavy level of care. But you know, the compassion was equal. And that they could be there together, and that my aunt was there as well, my mother's sister. I can never say that there was one day where I wasn't thrilled. If they had to be in that situation, that they could be at Hillel Lodge on this campus.
We're all one big family, and so we do our very best to look after each other, to respect one another, and to work toward making sure the family is strong, vibrant, and will continue into the future. That, to me, is a big part of being Jewish.
Whatever you can give is so critical to this community, and people often don't believe that. They think that if they just have a little bit to give, it really won't make a difference, but the truth is it makes a huge difference. And every person who gives whatever they can possibly give is so important to us, because then they're connected and they're a part of us, and we never know where that will lead. And everybody thrives and does better in our community when everybody is a part of it in whatever way they can be a part of it.